Welcome to another episode of Glen Yaps. This one has been a while in the works. I haven't had my studio for a while. We were doing a reno on it, so it's probably been a good half year or so since I've done one of these. And I enjoy doing them, but like I say, I needed the space for the reno, and everything in my studio was ripped out. So, just to touch base on what's happening here in the Glen world. This is my studio. I remodeled it through the winter. I've been getting lots of questions and requests to do recording in it, and unfortunately that's not going to happen. I built the studio as a absolute total man cave, just for my own things, my own projects, excuse me, with band members, but a lot of my own solo stuff. Over the past few years I've been writing a lot of music that I would like to basically send to independent filmmakers and try and get it into small movies and things like that. It's just something different I wanted to try. My friend Tony is my co-partner in the band Flat Stanley. We do a lot of writing together also, and we have talked about doing this also with the music we write in that particular project. Just trying to explore different avenues of creativity, I guess, for lack of a better term. Anyways, for the studio, a lot of people have asked about it. Some people have asked what I did so they can build a studio. And honestly, I did a lot of research, but it boils down to the money you want to spend, the room that you're going to put it in, what kind of gear, that kind of thing. And there's tons of other factors too. I'll just basically skim out what I did. So the basement, unfortunately, my house is a split level, so half the basement is basically just a few inches, like half the part where the studio is not located is shy of 8 feet. So you can't really do anything on that side of the basement except use it as a rehearsal spot, and that's what I basically do now. The studio side of my basement, which has basically full height ceilings, my bands used to practice over here, but the way I designed the studio now limits that for space. I could still get a band in here to record, but for me to get some other bands in here to record would mean me having to move all the gear that I own out, get their gear in, and it's just not possible. Like I say, my area to work in is small. It can still fit a full band with full gear, don't get me wrong, but the problem is I don't have a place to put the gear if you're bringing your own gear. Secondly, I've got the studio where I want it, and I know how musicians are, and you know, things get wrecked, things get banged into, and musicians love gear, so there's a lot of gear. The more gear people bring in, the less space I have, so too many factors. But bottom line is, I built the studio just for my own greed, music greed. So I had questions on what I did for the studio. I'll just do it really rough, a breakdown. I gutted the entire section of the basement. You can find pictures online of what I did. I'm not going to add them to this video. I'm just going to tell you what I did. So I went right down to the concrete. It was the only part of the house that I didn't renovate over the years. I left it the way it was when I bought it, which was it had an apartment down here on the one half of the basement. So I ripped out part of that, left 3/4 of it just for jam space, but I took out dividing walls for that used to be here for kitchen, bedroom. I took all those out and made it just one long room. So all that got gutted out. And it's a good thing I did, because I ended up finding wiring issues that were buried. You read all these Mike Holmes, or watch these Mike Holmes shows where, you know, you find horrible things behind drywall and ceiling tile and stuff. Well, I found one of those things, and I'm happy to say my house didn't burn down, but it could have. So basically I ripped out all the wiring. My brother was an electrician, and I used to run wires and stuff with him. So electrical, and I took electrical in school and never became an electrician, but it was easy to wire up the entire studio for what I wanted, and basically put the whole studio on its own circuit. So I don't have any issues with brownout or extra noise, that kind of thing. But anyways, for the soundproofing, there's this product called Rocks All, I think it's, I'm trying to remember the names, it's been a while since I put it in. Anyways, it's Mike Holmes had it, he advertised it a lot on his renovation shows. And the thing about that is it does have an R value, but there's different types of this product. I got the soundproofing one, which it does have an R value. But I mainly wanted it for the soundproofing factor. So I built all the subframe of the floor first, and the framing of the walls. In the floors, the floor is floating in the sense that it's the boards for the subfloor are not sitting on the concrete. The reason why I did that is I didn't want any reverberation from the boards into the concrete and back up. And I found that when you play bars, when people build substages for bands and drum risers, there's always this boom, boom, boom kind of sound that comes through the mics. Drives me nuts. So I made sure to eliminate that. So the floor is actually floating on these miniature stilts, we'll say. And the floor was all leveled for that. And so there's just small contact points. And there's a lot of them. And you might call them shims, but anyways, and they're placed around the entire floor. Then I basically coated the floor with paint, and then I put the Roxol in and plastic, and each Roxol package is actually wrapped like a pillow, like a pillowcase. And then the entire floor was covered in another sheet of plastic. And what that does is if I ever have a flood, the Roxol won't absorb any moisture. The Roxol stuff isn't affected by water anyways, but if you have to rip the floor out, at least the Roxol will be totally contained in each of its pillows. I won't have to go and buy that again. Obviously, you know, the other things are going to get destroyed. You'll have to take the floor out, but it's just worst case scenario. It's just one less thing that I have to redo, because to put all that stuff in and wrap it, and it was time consuming. It was worth it in the long run, but time consuming, and I wouldn't want to do that part again. So it's totally contained in each section of the floor, this soundproofing. And it works fantastic because the floor is totally dead sounding. I don't have that rumble that I've heard in other people's studios and on live stage. So then the wall, the same thing, except for the wall, I brought the walls out from the concrete basement walls. I brought it in a little bit more to add just thicker soundproofing. The windows, we switched to vinyl windows. The vinyl windows definitely have a soundproofing factor, the ones that I put in. I also put blinds that are a little bit thicker, and they seem to actually you can tilt the blinds for whatever reason, and it actually kind of redirects the sound. I came across that by total accident. So one of the windows is where my vocal area is, so that actually, with experimenting, it actually has a neat effect on the sound. The ceiling, because there's obviously rooms above for my house, so if people are walking around old houses, my house is 1953, the floors creak, and it's hard to eliminate that without having to hammer shims everywhere and have somebody walk upstairs. Here's a creak, put a shim in, and try to get rid of it. I didn't have the time for that. So what I did was I soundproofed to the same idea with this rock salt. I put it up in the ceiling between the beams, excuse me. And then I did, before I did all that, obviously the wiring was done, and I had to change plumbing and stuff because I didn't want to box in tons of pipe and stuff and ruin the whole acoustic value of the basement ceiling. So I tried to hide as much of the stuff as possible up into the floors. So then I put this rock salt in, and then what I did, I got soundproof tiles. They're 4x2. And these tiles they have a soundproof insulation on them, but the part that you see in the studio, which is a nice corrugated white, is kind of rubbery. Adds as a soundproof also. The other thing is, with these hanging tiles, most of these hanging tile systems, they're wired in with hooks, and you lose 4 inches of headroom, and I didn't want that. So I found a system, I believe it was at Lowe's, where they have these plastic style brackets and T-locks and stuff that basically go flush to the floor joists. And the advantage of that is you don't lose 4 inches of headspace. You basically, they're 1 inch thick that match the tiles. Very easy to install. I think roughly, I think it cost me maybe $500 to do the ceiling. And it worked great. My basement is a little bit tricky anyways because of its shape, but it worked out fine. It looks great. I changed the lighting, I wanted everything LED, so I got some funky older style lighting, and obviously some director lights. So there's 4 above the soundboard now that are totally directable, and to my guitar rig, which is over here, which has multiple guitar amps, and I built a whole stand to hold all the amps vertically rather than have them all on the floor. They're all in a beautiful thing I welded together with adjustable shelves, and they just kind of slide in. You can put them wherever you want, whatever amp you have to put in that rack, and there's light shining on that. I wanted to utilize as much space and height as possible, and without making it look cluttery. Over the drum set there's also another 4 lights, 4 I think, or I think I got 3 on that. Same style of lighting, LED, and totally directional, so wherever I'm operating on the drum set I can at least put it where I need the light. And then a couple of funky ones on the far end. So the project took about 5 months because we had a couple of issues that we had to get around. We put soundproof doors on it on the one end of the studio, and that has access to my jam place on the other side of the basement. And we soundproofed all the stairs, so if someone comes down the stairs there's no noise. And I think I did the whole studio, like I put the flooring in before I go on, I put flooring in that looks like it's beautiful wood, like a cherry wood. And the cool thing about this, it has I didn't want a flooring where you had to put this roll of plastic underneath. I wanted a rubber back. And the reason why I wanted the rubber back is I thought the rubber would soundproof it even more, and also the rubber with the gear. If I had to move gear, wouldn't move the floor. It is a floating floor, like even the particular planks. I just didn't want them to move under the heavy weight and stuff. So I figured it was soundproof and give a little more R value also, and it has. This past winter, the studio has never been this warm. It's awesome. I mean, I just love being down here. And the sound right now is really dead. There's like no extra, not a reverb sound, but an echoey sound like it used to have. So I'm still experimenting with the sound change, because it's a drastic sound change compared to what I had before. Anyways, the studio, I think it cost me between probably around, I'm going to say at the bottom it would be about $6, but it's up there a little bit more because I did change stuff, heavier wiring, and we did put a lot of outlets in. So the studio, I think, has 10 outlets at the same height throughout the basement, all the way around, so it doesn't matter where I am, I can plug in an amplifier or vacuum or whatever, just totally accessible. And also under the stairs, I created a compartment that this whole, even though my guitars are hanging on this certain area, like I say, I'm not going to post any pictures on the video here, but you can check them on my Facebook page. So underneath the stairs is all storage, but it's a giant door that opens. You can access under the stairs, and basically I wanted that because it was open before, and I was always having when my furnace was turning on in the wintertime, I would always get the furnace sound. So this is all soundproofed, and made a huge difference. You can still hear it a little bit, but not enough where I have to stop recording, I also took out, I used to have my drums on a riser, and I got rid of the drum riser. And the main reason for that, I was having trouble with the newer overheads. I bought Newman overhead mics. I was having trouble getting the distance between the kit. When they're too close, I was starting to get a little bit of a phasing issue between the microphones and the drum mics. So eliminating the drum riser brought the kit down 1.5 feet and made all difference in the world. And phasing can be absolutely annoying when it comes to cymbals, because you get this kind of stupid sound in the cymbals because the sound fights and overlaps with the other ones. So you want mic spread so you don't get that. And because the kit is so big with so many mics, it was annoying. So I've eliminated that part of it. So basically that's it. It took me, like I say, through the winter to finish it off, and I haven't really, except for some remixing and some minor recording to test things out, I haven't really given it a full test on a full song, but I'm on holidays starting now, and I'm definitely going to try and get one of my own originals done and online, just to test things out and see how I like it. I did buy some new speakers for the studio. I have 3 groups of speakers. I've added some Yamahas, which I've always wanted for the studio, and basically to add to the other 2 groups of speakers. I did have one buzzing issue with a connector, which I fixed, and hopefully it stays fixed. I bought lots of different gear since building the studio, lots of different microphones. I wanted to experiment with tons of vocal things, so I bought, I think, 4 newer style vocal mics. None of them are alike. I also bought for the drums and some brass instruments, because I would like to do a song with some brass instruments. So some clip-on microphones. That's a whole kit that I bought. I bought it originally for drums, just for quick live shows. It has 4 click mics and a kick drum mic. Although I've got tons of mics, just something different just experimenting with different sounds. I am going to upgrade the software on my computer. I've been about 80% happy with using Sonar. I'm going to try the newest version of Sonar. I'm going to upgrade to that. It's just a headache to transfer all my plugins and stuff and get them all working. I dread that. I've done it once before and it was not fun. So I'm going to try the newest version of Sonar, and if I'm not happy with it, then I'm going to experiment in other software. I am not going the Pro Tools way. I am not going with fully digital board. I bought this board, I don't know if it was last summer. It's an analog board going into digital. I don't want the computer to do everything. I want to have fun trying to achieve the sounds that I want. Anybody can go click and have the soundboard do everything. That's just not me. I want to have fun. I'm doing this because I enjoy it. I don't want to eliminate all the enjoyment factor. Trying to find the secret to getting good sound like they did back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The analog way, that's what I enjoy. Even though I process it all into digital, there's still, there's still hands-on there. And I won't give that up. And I might be like old school, stubborn, but it's not a speed thing for me. It's like total enjoyment. I'm doing it for myself. It's not like I have a deadline. This band needs their album out at this time. I'm just not into that. It's not why I built my studio. Anyways, so that's the scoop for the studio. And like I say, should have product coming out very soon, hopefully within this next few weeks, being, what's the date today? I think August 11th, 2017. So it has been a while since I've done one of these videos. Alright, that's it for now.